Welcome, friends, to another quiet night where stories from the past wrap around us like a soft blanket. Picture yourself sitting by a crackling fire, the desert air cool against your skin, with a sky full of stars twinkling above like scattered jewels all night. We're traveling back thousands of years to Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, where the rivers flowed, cities rose from the dust, and demons lurked in the shadows, as real to the people as the ground beneath their feet. So, settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let the whispers of history carry you away. If you enjoy these soothing tales that transport you to distant times, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories that calm the mind and spark curiosity. Now, take a deep breath, and let's step into a world where the line between the seen and unseen was as thin as a reed in the wind. Over 5,000 years ago, in what we now call Iraq, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers pulsed with life. Mesopotamia wasn't just a place, it was a tapestry of contrasts. Imagine golden fields of barley swaying under the sun, fed by intricate canals that shimmered like veins of silver. Cities of mud brick and straw rose from the earth-rook Babylon, nipper-rich, alive with the chatter of merchants, the clink of clay tablets, and the scent of fresh-baked bread wafting from homes. Temples towered toward the heavens, their steps leading to altars where priests spoke to gods. But beneath this vibrant world lay a current of fear, for Mesopotamia was not just a land of human triumphs. It was a realm where the invisible held sway. The Mesopotamians saw their world as alive, humming with forces beyond sight. Gods ruled the skies, rivers and storms, but so too did spirits some kind, some mischievous and some downright terrifying. Demons, they believed, could slip through the cracks of reality, born from the anger of gods, the unrest of the dead, or the very dust of the desert. These weren't the horned fiends of modern imagination. No, they were shapeless terrors or grotesque beings with animal-like features, blamed for everything from sudden fevers to crops withered by drought. To the people of Mesopotamia, a headache wasn't just a pain, it might be a demon's whisper. A storm wasn't just weather, it could be a spirit's wrath. Let's picture a woman named Tiamat, living in a small village near the Euphrates. Her home is simple, its walls smoothed from clay, the air inside thick with the scent of sesame, oil and dried herbs. At night, she lights a small oil lamp, its flame flickering as she works her loom, weaving reeds into baskets. But as the wind howls outside, rattling the wooden door, Tiamat pauses. She's heard the tales of demons that creep through villages after dusk, seeking the unwary. Her grandmother once told her of a night when the air grew heavy, and a shadow seemed to linger just beyond the lamplight. Was it a demon? Tiamat doesn't know, but she keeps a small clay amulet by her bedside, etched with symbols to ward off evil. It's a comfort, a shield against the unseen. This fear wasn't just superstition, it was woven into the rhythm of life. The Mesopotamians were practical people. They built canals to tame the rivers, wrote laws on stone, and tracked the stars to predict the seasons, but they also knew their world was unpredictable. A flood could sweep away a harvest, a child could fall ill with no warning, a dream could feel too vivid, too real. For these mysteries, demons were the answer way to name the chaos, to give shape to the unknown. And they didn't just name it, they fought it. Priests called Ipu performed rituals, chanting over burning incense, sprinkling holy water, or burying figurines to trap malevolent spirits. Every home, from the humblest hut to the grandest palace, held protections against the dark. Imagine walking through the streets of at twilight. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet. The city hums with life. Children laugh, chasing each other through narrow alleys. A potter shapes clay by the riverbank. A priest's voice echoes from the ziggurat, offering prayers to the moon god Sin. But as night falls, the mood shifts. Doors are barred, amulets are clutched. Mothers like Tiamat whisper to their children, "Stay close, don't wander," because in the dark, the demons were said to roam silent, unseen, but ever present. These beliefs shaped every part of Mesopotamian life. Take a farmer named Enlil, who works a small plot outside Nippa. One season, his crops begin to fail, the barley stalks browning despite ample water. The village elders mutter about an Edemu, a restless spirit tied to the land, perhaps angered by a forgotten offering. Enlil, practical but cautious, visits the local temple. There, a priestess hands him a clay tablet inscribed with cuneiform prayers. He tells him to bury it in his field at midnight, under the light of a crescent moon. Enlil follows her instructions, kneeling in the cool earth, the stars above him bright and unyielding. The next season, his crops thrive. Was it the ritual, the weather, or something else? Enlil doesn't question it. He simply gives thanks, leaving an offering of beer and bread at the temple. This was Mesopotamia, a world of innovation and wonder, but also of shadows and uncertainty. The people built towering ziggurats and wrote epic tales like the story of Gilgamesh. Yet they never forgot the forces they couldn't see. Demons weren't just stories told to scare children. They were part of the air they breathed, the dreams they dreamed, the lives they lived. And in their struggle against these forces, we see their humanity, their need to understand, to protect, to hope. As we linger here, Under the Mesopotamian stars, let's pause to imagine one more scene. It's a quiet evening in a village near the Tigris. A family gathers around a small fire, the glow casting shadows on their faces. The father, a scribe named Marduk, tells his children about the gods and spirits that watch over them. His voice is low, soothing, as he speaks of demons that roam the night, but also of the rituals that keep them at bay. The children listen, their eyes wide, but they're not afraid. They know their home is protected, their faith strong. And as the fire dies down, they drift to sleep, safe in the knowledge that the morning will come. If you're enjoying this journey into the heart of Mesopotamia, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support keeps these stories alive, connecting us to a past that still echoes in our own hearts. Now, let's step deeper into this world. The demons of Mesopotamia weren't just faceless fears. They had names, forms, and stories that struck terror into the hearts of those who whispered them. One of the most dreaded was Lamashtu, a demon whose very name could make a mother clutch her child closer. Picture her, a creature with the head of a lion, her teeth bared, her claws sharp as flint, her eyes gleaming with hunger. She was said to stalk the night, slipping into homes where newborns slept, her presence marked by a chill that no fire could warm. To the Mesopotamians, Lamashtu wasn't a myth, she was a threat as real as a sandstorm or a flood. Consider a young mother named Inanna, living in a modest house in Uruk. Her baby, barely a month old, sleeps in a woven cradle beside her. Inanna has heard the tales of Lamashtu since childhood, stories passed down by her own mother. She knows the signs, a sudden fever, a cry that won't stop, a shadow that seems to move against the wall, so she takes no chances. Around her baby's cradle, she hangs a small amulet, a bronze disc, etched with the fierce face of Pazuzu, another demon, but one invoked to drive Lamashtu away. Every night, Inanna murmurs prayers to Gula, the goddess of healing, her voice trembling but determined. She sprinkles salt at the doorway, a barrier against evil, and when her baby stirs, she holds him close, humming a lullaby to drown out the wind's eerie howl. This wasn't just fear, it was survival. Childbirth was dangerous in Mesopotamia, and infant mortality was high. When a baby fell ill, it was easy to believe a demon like Lamashtu was to blame. But the Mesopotamians didn't just cower. They fought back with rituals, charms, and faith. Priests would craft clay figurines of Lamashtu, binding her spirit with spells before burying or burning them. Families offered sacrifices, dates, wine, or a small animal to appease the gods and keep the demoness at bay. Inanna, like so many mothers, clung to these rituals, finding strength in the belief that she could protect her child from the unseen. Let's walk through another moment in this ancient world. It's market day in Babylon, and the streets are alive with color and sound. Merchants call out, offering pots, cloth, and dried fish. A storyteller sits under a palm tree, recounting tales of gods and demons to a small crowd. Nearby, a woman buys a clay amulet from a vendor, her fingers tracing the cuneiform symbols etched into it. She's heard rumors of illness in a neighboring village, and she wants protection for her family. The vendor, an old man with weathered hands, assures her the amulet was blessed by a priest. She nods, tucking it into her basket, and hurries home before night falls. This was the rhythm of Mesopotamian life, vibrant, creative, and deeply spiritual, yet always aware of the dangers lurking just out of sight. The people didn't just live with their demons, they learned to face them. They built a civilization that stood the test of time, leaving behind stories, laws, and art that still captivate us today. And as we sit here, under our own modern stars, we can feel a connection to them, a shared human need to make sense of the world, to find light in the darkness. So, as you drift toward sleep tonight, imagine the soft rush of the Euphrates, the glow of a distant city, and the quiet strength of people like Tiamat, Enlil, and Inanna. They faced their fears with courage, just as we do. And in their stories we find a piece of ourselves carried across the centuries on whispers in the desert. The face of Lamashtu, the terror of mothers, as the stars continue to shimmer over the Mesopotamian plains, their light casting faint shadows across the mud brick homes. We linger in this ancient world where the unseen feels as close as the breath in your lungs. The soft rush of the Euphrates carries us forward, from the bustling streets of Uruk and Babylon to the quiet fears that stirred in the hearts of those who lived here. We've walked with Tiamat, clutching her amulet against the night, and Enlil, burying prayers in his fields. But now, let's step closer to one of the most dreaded names in Mesopotamia, a name whispered in hushed tones, a name that made mothers hold their children tighter. Lamashtu. Picture the twilight settling over a village near the Tigris, the sky bruised with shades of purple and gold. The air is warm, heavy with the scent of baked earth and blooming tamarisk. In a small home, a young mother named Inanna sits by her newborn's cradle, her fingers tracing the woven reeds as she hums a soft lullaby. The baby, barely a month old, stirs gently, his tiny chest rising and falling. But Inanna's eyes dart to the doorway, where the flicker of her oil lamp casts unsteady shadows. She knows the stories of Lamashtu, the demoness who hunts the vulnerable, who slips through the cracks of the night to steal the breath of infants. Lamashtu wasn't just a tale to scare children. To the Mesopotamians, she was as real as the fever that could claim a child in hours. They described her with chilling detail: a lion's head, snarling with jagged teeth, talons sharp as flint, a body twisted and unnatural, sometimes perched on donkey's legs. Her eyes, they said, burned with hunger, and her laughter was the howl of the desert wind. She roamed at dusk, drawn to the cries of newborns, her presence marked by a chill that no fire could warm. For a mother like Inanna, every creak of the house, every gust outside, could be a sign that Lamashtu was near. Inanna's village, nestled along the river's bend, is no stranger to fear. Just last month, a neighbor's child fell ill, his cries turning to weak gasps before dawn. The elders whispered of Lamashtu's touch, and the family's grief hung over the village like a fog. Inanna, determined to protect her son, has taken every precaution. Around the cradle hangs a bronze amulet, its surface etched with the fierce face of Pazuzu, a demon invoked to drive Lamashtu away. She's sprinkled salt across the threshold, a barrier against evil, and every night she prays to Gula, the goddess of healing, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "Keep him safe," she whispers, her hands trembling as she tucks a blanket around her son. This fear of Lamashtu wasn't just personal. It was woven into the fabric of Mesopotamian life. Childbirth was perilous, and many infants didn't survive their first year. When a baby sickened, when a mother's milk dried up, or when a fever came without warning, Lamashtu was the explanation. She was the shadow behind every unexplained loss, the reason for every sleepless night. But the Mesopotamians didn't face her with despair. They fought back with rituals, charms, and an unyielding will to protect their own. Let's follow Inanna as she seeks help. One morning, with the sun barely cresting the horizon, she wraps her baby in a soft cloth and walks to the village temple. The air smells of damp clay and incense, and the temple's mud-brick walls loom tall, adorned with carvings of winged spirits. Inside, a priestess named Ninhursag, and an Ipu skilled in the art of exorcism, listens to Inanna's fears. Her son has been fussy, waking with cries that pierce the night. Inanna's voice cracks as she speaks, her eyes fixed on the clay figurines lining the altar. Ninhursag nods, her expression calm but grave. "Lamashtu is restless," she says, "but we can bind her." The priestess hands Inanna a small clay tablet, its surface covered in cuneiform wedges. The words are a spell, a plea to the gods to banish Lamashtu to the underworld. Ninhursag instructs Inanna to bury the tablet beneath her home at midnight, under the light of a crescent moon. She also gives her a bundle of herbs, myrrh and cedar, to burn during the ritual, their smoke a shield against the demon. Inanna clutches the tablet, its weight a small comfort, and returns home. Her steps quick but careful, her baby nestled against her chest. That night Inanna prepares. She lights a fire in a clay brazier, the herbs filling the room with a sharp, woody scent. The baby sleeps, his breathing steady for now. As the moon rises, Inanna kneels by the doorway, digging a small hole in the packed earth. She places the tablet inside, whispering the words etched upon it: "Lamashtu, daughter of Anu, be gone from this house. Return to the shadows from whence you came." The words feel heavy, like stones, and as she covers the tablet with earth, she imagines a barrier rising, invisible but strong. The wind outside is still, and for the first time in days, Inanna feels a flicker of hope. This ritual wasn't unique. To Inanna across Mesopotamia, families turned to our Ipu for protection. Temples were storehouses of knowledge, filled with tablets detailing spells, incantations, and offerings. Some rituals called for sacrifices: a lamb, a dove, or a handful of dates left at a crossroads. Others involved crafting figurines of Lamashtu, binding her spirit with cords before burning or burying them. These acts were more than superstition. They were a way to reclaim control in a world where so much was uncertain. A fever might break, a child might recover, and the ritual would be credited. If the worst happened, the family could at least find solace in knowing they had fought. Let's shift to another home, this one in the city of Nippur. A man named Shamash, a potter, sits by his daughter's bedside. She's only 3, her small body hot with fever. The room is dim, lit only by a single oil lamp, its flame casting shadows that seem to twist and move. Shamash's wife, Ira, has been awake for days, her eyes red from worry. They've tried everything: cool cloths, herbal brews, but the fever won't break. A neighbor suggests Lamashtu is to blame, and Shamash, though skeptical, feels a chill. He's seen the amulets, heard the priest's chants. What if it's true? Shamash visits the temple, where an Aipu named Enki offers guidance. Enki is old, his hands steady from years of ritual work. He gives Shamash a small figurine of Lamashtu carved from clay, its lion-like face grotesque but precise. "Take this," Enki says, "and perform the rite at dawn." The ritual is complex. Shamash must wrap the figurine in 7 cords, each tied with a prayer, then burn it in a fire of tamarisk wood while chanting to Inanna, the goddess of love and war. Shamash follows every step, the smoke stinging his eyes as he pleads for his daughter's life. By morning, her fever breaks. Shamash weeps, clutching the amulet he now wears around his neck. He doesn't know if it was the ritual or chance, but he believes. These stories of Inanna, Shamash, and countless others show us the human side of Mesopotamia's fears. Lamashtu wasn't just a demon. She was a symbol of the fragility of life, especially for the young. The rituals, the amulets, the prayers, they were acts of defiance, a refusal to let fear win. And in every village, every city, families like these carried on their faith, a shield against the dark. If you're finding comfort in these tales of courage and mystery, please subscribe if you liked the video. Your support helps us keep these stories alive. Bridging the gap between our world and theirs, let's linger a moment longer. Imagine a market the stalls piled high with dates, fish, and woven goods. A woman buys a Lamashtu amulet from a vendor, her fingers tracing its rough edges. She's pregnant, her belly round beneath her robe, and she wants protection for the child she'll soon bring into this unpredictable world. The vendor, an old woman with kind eyes, tells her to hang it above the cradle and pray to Gula each night. The woman nods, her heart a mix of hope and fear, and hurries home as the sun dips low. This was the world of Mesopotamia, place of beauty and danger, where every joy was tempered by the knowledge that something unseen might be watching. Lamashtu, that was the worst of these fears. But she wasn't the only one. Other demons, like Pazuzu, waited in the wings, their roles more complex, their stories just as gripping. And as the night deepens over our ancient landscape, we'll soon meet one. With them, a creature both feared and revered, whose wings cast a shadow over Mesopotamia's hopes and dreams. Pazuzu, the guardian of Teru. The night deepens over Mesopotamia, the stars burning brighter as the cool desert air settles over the mud-brick homes. The soft hum of the Euphrates lingers in the distance, carrying the echoes of Inanna's prayers and Shamash's rituals against the fearsome Lamashtu. But in this ancient world, where shadows hold as much power as light, another figure looms in the minds of the people, a demon whose name brings both dread and hope. As we move through the narrow streets of your past, the flickering oil lamps and whispered chants, we find ourselves drawn to Pazuzu, a creature of terror who, strangely, also offered protection. Picture a small house in the city of Uruk, its walls smooth from clay and straw, the air inside thick with the scent of burning myrrh. A woman named Ninlil sits by her sleeping daughter, her fingers clutching a bronze amulet etched with a grotesque face, claw sharp, eyes bulging, wings spread like a storm cloud. This is Pazuzu, the demon whose very image could make the heart raise, yet whose power was invoked to shield the vulnerable from even darker forces. Ninlil's daughter, barely 2 years old, has been restless, her sleep broken by cries that pierce the quiet. Ninlil fears Lamashtu's touch, but she places her trust in this amulet, a gift from the temple, believing Pazuzu's ferocity will keep the demoness at bay. Pazuzu was no ordinary demon. The Mesopotamians described him as a monstrous figure, a scaly body, a face twisted with rage, talons like a hawk's, and wings that roared with the winds of the desert. His breath, they said, was a plague, his presence a harbinger of storms. Yet in a world where demons like Lamashtu preyed on the weak, Pazuzu was a paradox, a terror-turned guardian. He was the enemy of Lamashtu's power so fierce that even she, the lion-headed devourer, would flee at his name. Families hung his image above cradles, wore his likeness around their necks, and carved his form into the walls of their homes, trusting that his wrath would protect them from hers. Let's walk with Ninlil as she navigates her fears. It's early evening, and the sky over Uruk glows with the last embers of sunset. Ninlil's home is modest, its floor packed earth, its roof a lattice of reeds. She's a weaver, her days spent threading wool into intricate patterns, but ascended master's thesis, dies say, but her nights are haunted by worry. Her daughter's cries have grown worse, and the village whispers of Lamashtu's influence. Determined to protect her child, Ninlil visits the local temple, a low building adorned with colorful tiles. There, she meets an Anaipu named Enkidu, a young priest with steady hands and a calm voice. He listens to her story, his eyes thoughtful, and hands her a Pazuzu amulet. Hang this above her bed, he says, and burn cedar incense at dawn. Pazuzu will drive the evil away. Ninlil returns home, her heart heavy but hopeful. That night, she follows Enkidu's instructions, lighting a small brazier and letting the cedar smoke curl toward the ceiling. She hangs the amulet above the cradle, its eerie face catching the lamplight. As she whispers prayers to Gula, the goddess of healing, she feels a strange sense of calm, as if Pazuzu's fierce gaze is already standing guard. By morning, her daughter sleeps soundly, her tiny face peaceful. Ninlil touches the amulet, her fingers trembling with gratitude, and wonders if Pazuzu's power or her own faith made the difference. This duality of Pazuzu demon and protector the Mesopotamian imagination. Unlike Lamashtu, who was purely malevolent, Pazuzu was a complex figure. Temples housed statues of him, their craftsmanship both beautiful and terrifying, with bulging eyes and snarling mouths. Priests invoked his name in rituals, not to banish him, but to harness his strength. In a world where danger lurked in every shadow, Pazuzu was a necessary ally, a reminder that even the most terrifying forces could be turned to good. Let's step into another scene. This one in the bustling city of Babylon. It's market day, and the streets are alive with the chatter of traders and the scent of roasted barley. A man named Marduk, a scribe, navigates the crowd, his young son clinging to his hand. Marduk's wife has just given birth to their second child, a boy, and the family has been plagued by bad dreams. An elder suggested Pazuzu's protection, so Marduk seeks out a vendor known for crafting sacred amulets. The vendor, an old woman, with weathered hands, shows him a small clay statue of Pazuzu, its wings intricately carved. This one was blessed by the high priest, she says, her voice low. Marduk pays with a handful of dates and hurries home, the statue wrapped carefully in cloth. That night, Marduk and his wife perform a ritual. They light a fire, burning tamarisk and myrrh, and place the Pazuzu statue by the baby's cradle. Marduk recites an incantation, his voice steady but soft, calling on Pazuzu to guard his newborn son. The air feels lighter, the shadows less oppressive. Whether it was the ritual or simply hope, Marduk's family sleeps through the night, undisturbed by nightmares. In the morning he touches the statue, its cold surface a reminder of the thin line between fear and safety. These rituals were more than acts of faith, they were a way to navigate a world of uncertainty. In Mesopotamia, life was fragile. Floods could destroy crops, fevers could claim lives, and dreams could carry omens. Pazuzu, with his terrifying visage, offered a way to fight back. His image was a shield, his name a weapon. And while we might see these rituals as superstition, for the Mesopotamians, they were as practical as building a canal or sowing a field. They were survival. If you're finding solace in these ancient tales of courage and mystery, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep weaving these stories, connecting us to the hopes and fears of a distant past. Let's linger a little longer in this world. Imagine a quiet evening in Nippa, where a family gathers around a flickering lamp. The father, a merchant named Zaidu, tells his children about Pazuzu, not to frighten them, but to teach them. He's a storm, he says, but a storm that guards us. The children listen wide-eyed as he describes Pazuzu's wings and claws, his voice a soothing murmur. The lamp's light dances across their faces, and the night feels safe, as if Pazuzu himself is watching over them. This belief in Pazuzu's dual nature reflects the Mesopotamian worldview, a world where nothing was purely good or evil, but part of a greater balance. Demons like Lamashtu were chaos, but Pazuzu was order, a fierce protector born from the same shadows. And yet, not all spirits were so complex. Some, like the restless Utuku, carried the weight of human tragedy, their stories rooted in loss and longing. As the night stretches on, we'll follow one such spirit, a soul trapped between worlds, and the grieving brother who seeks to set it free. The Utuku souls lost in the night. As the Mesopotamian night stretches on, the stars above seem to pulse with secrets, their light filtering through the reeds of a village roof. The echoes of Pazuzu's fierce protection linger in our minds, his winged shadow a shield over Ninlo's home and Marduk's newborn son. But in this ancient land, where the line between the living and the unseen blurs, not all spirits are as mighty or as deliberate as Pazuzu. Some are far more human, their presence born from tragedy and loss. The soft murmur of the Euphrates carries us now to a quieter corner of Mesopotamia, to the city of Nippa, where a merchant named Inki grapples with a restless spirit, a spirit that once called him brother. The Utuku were not demons in the same way as Lamashtu or Pazuzu. They were the souls of the dead, those who had not found peace in the underworld. In Mesopotamian belief, death was not an end but a journey, and proper burial was the map to guide the soul. Without it, a spirit could become an Utuku, trapped between worlds, haunting the living with whispers and shadows. These spirits weren't always malevolent. Sometimes they sought justice, sometimes closure, sometimes simply to be remembered. But their presence was a weight, a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of ritual. Enki's story begins in a modest house on the edge of Nippa, its walls baked hard by the sun. The air inside smells of dried dates and the faint tang of river mud. Enki, a merchant who trades barley and wool, sits by a small oil lamp, its flame casting unsteady light across the room. For weeks he's been troubled by strange occurrences, a door creaking open in the night, a chill that lingers despite the warm desert air, and a faint whisper that sounds too much like his brother's voice. His brother Shamash died a year ago, swept away by the Euphrates during a sudden flood. His body was never found, his burial rites never performed. Now Enki fears Shamash has become a Utuku, a lost soul unable to rest. The nights have grown heavier for Enki. He lies awake, listening to the wind, wondering if it carries his brother's pleas. His wife Ninsen notices the strain in his eyes, the way he startles at every sound. She urges him to seek help, to visit the temple and speak with an Aipu. Enki resists at first. He's a practical man, more comfortable with legends than rituals, but the whispers grow louder, and his dreams are filled with images of Shamash, his face pale, his eyes pleading. Finally, Enki relents, driven by love and guilt, and sets out for the temple at dawn. The temple in Nippur is a place of quiet power, its mud brick walls adorned with carvings of stars and lions. Inside, the air is thick with the scent of burning cedar and myrrh. Enki meets an Aipu named Ishtar, a woman with a calm presence and hands marked by years of crafting sacred objects. She listens as Enki recounts the strange events, his voice low and hesitant. Ishtar nods, her expression thoughtful. "Your brother's soul is restless," she says, "and Utuku lingers when the rites are incomplete. We must guide him to the underworld." Ishtar gives Enki a small clay figurine shaped like a man, its surface etched with cuneiform prayers. She instructs him to perform a ritual at a crossroads, a place where the worlds of the living and the dead touch. Enki must offer food, bread, dates, and beer and bury the figurine under the stars, speaking words to guide Shamash's soul. Enki takes the figurine, its weight grounding him, and returns home, his heart a mix of hope and sorrow. That night, as the village sleeps, he gathers the offerings, a loaf of barley bread, a handful of dried dates, and a small jug of beer brewed from his own stores. The crossroads lies just outside Nippur, where two dirt paths meet under a tamarisk tree. The air is cool, the stars bright and unyielding. Enki kneels, his hands trembling as he places the offerings on the ground. He lights a small fire, the smoke curling upward, and begins to chant the words Ishtar taught him. "Shamash, my brother, find your way. Let the gods lead you to peace." He buries the figurine, covering it with earth, and pours the beer into the dust, its scent mingling with the night. As he finishes, the wind stirs, soft and warm, and for a moment, Enki feels lighter, as if Shamash's presence has lifted. The next night, the whispers are gone. The door stays still, the air warm. Enki sleeps deeply, dreaming of his brother not pale and pleading, but smiling, standing by the river under a clear sky. He wakes with tears in his eyes, unsure if the ritual worked or if his heart simply found peace. But he visits the temple again, leaving an offering of wool for Ishtar, a silent thanks for her guidance. The Utuku, he believes, has moved on. This belief in the Utuku wasn't just about fear, it was about connection. The Mesopotamians saw death as a continuation, a journey that required care from the living, a proper burial offerings, prayers. A grave ensured the soul's passage to the underworld, a shadowy realm ruled by the goddess Erish Kegel. But when those rites were missed, as with Shamash, the soul could linger, becoming an Utuku. These spirits were a reminder of duty, of the bonds that tied families even beyond death. Let's step into another moment, this one in a village near the Tigris. A young woman named Lilichu mourns her mother, who died during a fever last spring. The burial was rushed, the offerings sparse, as the village struggled with illness. Now Lilichu hears strange sounds at night, a soft tapping at the window, a sigh that seems to come from nowhere. Her neighbors whisper of an Utuku, and Lilichu, though young, knows what she must do. She visits the temple, where an Ahipu gives her a clay tablet inscribed with prayers. Like Enki, she performs a ritual. At a crossroads, offering bread and wine under the stars, the tapping stops, and Lilichu feels her mother's presence fade, replaced by a quiet warmth. These rituals were acts of love, a way to honor the dead and ease their passage. They were also practical, a means to protect the living from the unrest of those left behind. In every city, from Ur to Babylon, families performed these rites, their offerings a bridge between worlds. Temples kept detailed records, clay tablets filled with spells to soothe Utuku, and priests like Ishtar were revered for their knowledge, their ability to restore balance. If you're finding comfort in these stories of loss and redemption, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support keeps these ancient voices alive, weaving their hopes and fears into our own. Let's linger a moment longer in Nippur. Picture a quiet evening, the city bathed in moonlight. Enki sits with his family, sharing a meal of flatbread and lentil stew. He tells his children about Shamash, not as a ghost, but as the brother who taught him to swim in the Euphrates, to laugh under the stars. The children listen, their faces soft in the lamplight, and the house feels warm, whole. The Utuku is gone, but Shamash's memory lives on, carried in stories and love. This care for the dead was only one part of Mesopotamia's spiritual world. Beyond the Utuku, there were those who fought the unseen priests and priestesses, whose rituals held back the darkness. As the night deepens, we'll follow one such Aipu, a guardian against the invisible, whose work bound the living and the dead in a delicate dance of faith and fear. The art of the Zapu warriors against the invisible. The moonlight bathes Nippur in a soft silver glow, casting long shadows across the mud-brick homes where Enki and his family now rest, their hearts lighter after guiding Shamash's restless Utuku to peace. The gentle ripple of the Euphrates carries us forward, weaving through the stories of Mesopotamia's unseen world, where demons and spirits were as real as the rivers that sustained life. Enki found solace in the temple, in the hands of Ishtar, the Aipu, whose rituals bridged the gap between the living and the dead. Now, let's follow her, stepping into the sacred world of the Aipu, the priests and priestesses who stood as warriors against the invisible, armed with chants, incense, and an unshakable faith in the order of the cosmos. In the heart of Nippur, the temple of Enlil stands tall, its stepped walls rising toward the stars. The air inside is thick with the scent of burning myrrh and cedar, and the flicker of oil lamps casts dancing shadows on the clay reliefs of winged spirits. Ishtar, the Aipu, moves through this sacred space with quiet purpose. She is no ordinary priestess. Her role is to confront the unseen forces that threaten her people, demons like Lamashtu, restless Utuku, or the malevolent whispers that bring sickness and despair. Her tools are not swords or shields, but tablets inscribed with cuneiform spells, bundles of sacred herbs, and the knowledge passed down through generations. Tonight, Ishtar prepares for a ritual. A woman named Eresh has come to her, her face pale with worry. Eresh's mother, a weaver in a nearby village, lies ill with a fever that won't break. The village elders speak of a demon's touch, perhaps a rabasu, a spirit that lurks in thresholds and shadows. Eresh's voice trembles as she describes her mother's symptoms: a burning heat, restless sleep, and a strange heaviness in the house, as if the air itself is watching. Ishtar listens, her eyes steady, and nods. "We will drive the spirit away," she says, her voice calm but firm, like a river stone smoothed by time. Ishtar leads Eresh to a small chamber within the temple, its walls lined with shelves of clay tablets. These tablets are the heart of her craft, each one etched with incantations to banish demons, appease gods, or guide lost souls. She selects one, its surface marked with wedges that tell of the rabasu and the rituals to expel them. Ishtar explains the plan: a cleansing ritual at Eresh's home, using holy water, incense, and a figurine to trap the demon's essence. Eresh clutches her hands, her eyes wide with hope, and follows Ishtar back to the village as dawn paints the sky in hues of rose and gold. The house is small, its air heavy with the scent of sickness and fear. Eresh's mother lies on a reed mat, her breathing shallow, her face flushed. Ishtar begins her work, her movements precise but gentle. She lights a brazier, filling the room with the sharp, woody scent of cedar and tamarisk. She sprinkles water from a clay vessel, blessed at the temple under the light of the moon god. Sighing, her voice rises in a chant, low and rhythmic. The words ancient and heavy: rabasu, shadow of the threshold, flee from this place. By Enlil's will, by grace, be gone. She holds a small clay figurine shaped like a crouching beast and binds it with cords, each knot sealing the demon's power. Eresh watches, her hands clasped, as Ishtar buries the figurine outside the house, in a patch of earth near the doorway. The ritual ends with a final prayer, Ishtar's voice softening as she calls on Gula to heal the afflicted. The air feels lighter, the shadows less oppressive. By morning, Eresh's mother stirs, her fever breaking like a wave receding. Eresh weeps, embracing Ishtar, who smiles quietly and leaves a small amulet disc etched with protective symbols for the family. Whether it was the ritual or time, Eresh believes the Aipu saved her mother, and that belief is enough. The Aipu were more than priests. They were healers, scholars, and mediators of the divine. Their training was rigorous. Years spent memorizing incantations, learning the properties of herbs, and understanding the will of the gods. They worked in temples, but also in homes, fields, and palaces, their presence a constant in Mesopotamian life. Their rituals were intricate, blending prayer, offerings, and symbolic acts. A sick child might require a chant to banish Lamashtu. A haunted house might need a buried figurine to trap a newt. Each ritual was tailored to the threat, a testament to the Aipu's skill and the people's faith. Let's step into another moment. This one in the city of Yor. A man named Zaidu, a merchant who travels the river routes, seeks Ishtar's help. His home has been plagued by strange events: spilled grain, broken pots, and a persistent chill that unsettles his family. Zaidu fears a demon, perhaps drawn by a curse or an unfulfilled vow. Ishtar visits his home, her satchel heavy with ritual tools. She listens to Zaidu's story, noting the fear in his eyes, and diagnoses a Galu, a demon said to drag souls to the underworld. Her ritual is different this time. She crafts a small boat from reeds, places offerings of bread and wine inside, and sets it afloat on the Euphrates at dusk, chanting to send the Galu away. Zaidu watches, his heart pounding, as the boat drifts into the twilight. The disturbances stop, and Zaidu leaves a gift of silver at the temple, his gratitude unspoken but deep. These rituals were the heartbeat of Mesopotamian spirituality. The Aipu didn't just fight demons, they restored balance, mending the tears in the fabric of life. Their work was practical, rooted in a worldview where the physical and spiritual were one. A fever wasn't just a sickness, it was a demon's grip. A storm wasn't just weather, it was a god's anger. The Aipu gave people a way to act, to fight back against the chaos of an unpredictable world. If you're finding peace in these tales of faith and resilience, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient stories alive, connecting us to the strength of those who faced the unseen. Let's linger in this world a little longer. Picture a quiet afternoon in Nippur where Ishtar teaches a young apprentice, a girl named Nanch, the art of the Aipu. They sit in the temple courtyard, surrounded by the scent of blooming tamarisk. as Ishtar explains the power of words and the weight of ritual. Nanch listens, her hands tracing the wedges of a clay tablet, her eyes bright with determination. The temple hums with life priests chanting, offerings burning, families seeking help, and Ishtar knows her work is vital, a thread in the tapestry of her people's survival. But not all threats were as grand as Lamashtu or as poignant as the Utuku. Some demons, like the Rabasu, lurked in the everyday, hiding in doorways and shadows, preying on the unsuspecting. As the sun sets over Mesopotamia, we'll follow a young weaver whose life is touched by one such spirit. Her story a testament to the quiet courage of ordinary people in an extraordinary world. Shadows at the threshold. The Rabasu in everyday life. The sun dips low over the Mesopotamian horizon, painting the sky with streaks of amber and violet as the gentle hum of Nipa's temple fades into the evening. Ishtar, the Ayapu, has just finished her ritual, leaving Eresh's mother resting peacefully, the weight of the Rabasu demon lifted from their home. The air carries the faint scent of cedar and river mud, weaving through the narrow streets where families settle for the night, their oil lamps flickering like tiny stars. But in this ancient world, where every shadow holds a story, not all demons are as grand as Lamashtu or as poignant as the Utuku. Some, like the Rabasu, lurk in the quiet corners of daily life, waiting at thresholds and doorways. Their presence, a subtle but persistent threat. Let's follow one such story, stepping into the life of a young weaver named Lamashtu, whose courage in the face of the unseen mirrors the resilience of her people. In a small village near the Tigris, home stands modest but warm, its mud brick walls smoothed by years of care. The air inside is heavy with the scent of wool and dried herbs, and a single oil lamp casts a soft glow across the room. Lamashtu, barely 20, spends her days at a loom, her fingers deftly weaving intricate patterns into cloth that will be sold in the markets of Mesopotamia. Her hands are still, her eyes fixed on the cradle where her son, barely a year old, tosses in his sleep. For days he's been unwell, his cheeks flushed, his cries sharp and restless. The village whispers of a Rabasu, a demon said to lurk at doorways, slipping into homes to bring sickness or misfortune. Lamashtu feels a chill, not from the night air, but from the fear that something unseen watches her child. The Rabasu were not the stuff of grand myths like Lamashtu or Pazuzu. They were subtler, more insidious, described as shadowy figures that crouched in thresholds, their eyes glinting like embers in the dark. The Mesopotamians believed they could strike without warning, bringing fevers, bad dreams, or small accidents. Spilled jar, a twisted ankle, a child's sudden illness. To Lamashtu, every creak of the door, every flicker of the lamp, feels like a sign. She's heard the story since childhood. Her grandmother once spoke of a Rabasu that haunted their home, blamed for a season of failed crops and sleepless nights. Determined to protect her son, Lamashtu takes action, her heart pounding but her resolve firmed at dawn. She wraps her son in a soft cloth and walks to the village temple, a low building adorned with tiles of blue and gold. The air smells of incense and river water, and the hum of prayers fills the space. There she finds an Ipu named Ninhursag, a priestess whose calm presence steadies Lamashtu's nerves. Ninhursag listens, as Lamashtu describes her son's symptoms and the strange heaviness in her home, a feeling she can't shake. Like eyes watching from the shadows, the priestess nods, her hands tracing the edges of a clay tablet. A Rabasu may be at work, she says, her voice gentle but certain. We will cleanse your home and guard your son. Ninhursag gives Lamashtu a small clay disc, etched with cuneiform symbols and the image of a protective spirit. She instructs her to hang it above the doorway and perform a ritual at dusk. Burn myrrh and cedar, sprinkle salt across the threshold, and recite a chant to banish the Rabasu. Lamashtu clutches the disc, its cool surface a small comfort, and hurries home, her son nestled against her chest. As the sun sets, she prepares the ritual, her hands steady despite the fear gnawing at her. She lights a brazier, the smoke curling upward, its sharp scent filling the room. She scatters salt at the doorway, a barrier against the unseen, and hangs the disc above, its symbols catching the fading light dot as the stars emerge. Lamashtu begins the chant, her voice soft but clear. Rabasu, shadow of the threshold, leave this place, by the will of Shamash, by the grace of Gula, be gone. The words feel heavy, like stones dropped into still water, and she repeats them, her son's cradle beside her. The air shifts, lighter somehow, and her son's cries soften into quiet breaths. By morning, his fever has eased, his tiny face peaceful. Lamashtu touches the disc, her fingers trembling with relief, and whispers a prayer of thanks, unsure if it was the ritual or her own hope that turned the tide. This wasn't just Lamashtu's story, it was the story of countless Mesopotamians, whose lives were shaped by the belief that even the smallest spaces could harbor danger. The Rabasu were a reminder that the unseen was everywhere, lurking in the everyday moments of life. Doorways, thresholds, and corners were sacred boundaries, places where the worlds of the living and the spirits met. To cross a threshold without care was to invite trouble. So families took precautions. Amulets hung above doors, salt scattered on floors, prayers whispered before entering or leaving. These acts were as routine as baking bread or fetching water. woven into the rhythm of daily life. Let's step into another home, this one in the city of Lagash. A man named Enlil, a potter, notices small misfortunes piling up: a cracked pot, a spilled jug of oil, and his daughter's persistent cough. The neighbors murmur about a rabasu, drawn perhaps by an unkept vow or a forgotten offering. Enlil, practical but cautious, visits the temple, where an Ipu named Enkidu hands him a clay tablet, inscribed with a protective spell. Enlil follows the ritual, burning herbs and chanting under the stars, and places a small amulet at his doorway. The cough fades, the accidents cease, and Enlil feels the weight lift. His home once again a sanctuary. These small acts of defiance were the heart of Mesopotamian resilience. The rabasu were not invincible. They could be banished with the right words, the right offerings. Temples were storehouses of such knowledge, their shelves lined with tablets detailing spells for every threat. The Aipu were the guardians of this wisdom, their rituals a bridge between the human and the divine. For people like Lalitu and Enlil, these rituals were not just superstition, they were a way to reclaim control, to make sense of a world where sickness and misfortune could strike without warning. If you're finding comfort in these tales of quiet courage, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these stories alive, connecting us to the everyday struggles of a distant past. Let's linger a moment longer in this village. Picture Lalitu sitting by her loom the next day, her son playing nearby, his laughter a soft melody. The amulet hangs above the door, a silent guardian, and the air feels warm, safe. Lalitu smiles, her fingers moving swiftly over the wool, her heart lighter than it's been in weeks. That rabasu is gone, or so she believes, and that belief is enough to carry her forward. This belief in the power of ritual was not just about demons, it was about understanding the world itself. The Mesopotamians saw their universe as a dance, a delicate balance between gods, spirits, and humans. Demons like the rabasu were part of that dance, but so were the stories that gave people hope. As the night deepens over the Tigris, we'll step into a family's home, where a father shares tales of this cosmic balance, teaching his children not just to fear the unseen, but to find strength in the stories that shape their world. The cosmic dance, gods, demons, and balance. The night settles deeper over the Mesopotamian village, the Tigris murmuring softly as it reflects the starlight above. Lilitu's home is quiet now, her son's laughter a gentle echo, the rabasu banished by her ritual and the amulet guarding her doorway. The air carries the faint scent of wool and the warmth of her oil lamp, a small beacon against the darkness. But beyond her walls, the world of Mesopotamia pulses with a deeper rhythm, a rhythm of gods, demons, and humans woven together in a delicate dance. As we move through the streets, past the flickering lights of homes and temples, we're drawn to a family gathered around a fire, where stories of this cosmic balance are shared, not to frighten, but to teach, to connect, to make sense of a world where the unseen holds as much power as the seen. In a modest house in the city of Ur, the air is warm with the scent of barley stew and burning tamarisk. A father named Marduk, a scribe who spends his days etching cuneiform onto clay tablets, sits with his 3 children, their faces glowing in the firelight. The youngest, a girl named Ishtar, clutches a woven blanket, her eyes wide as her father begins to speak. His voice is low, soothing, like the river's flow, as he tells them of the gods who shaped their world. The Sky Father, Enlil, Lord of the Winds, Inanna, goddess of love and war. But tonight, his story turns to the demons, not as monsters to fear, but as part of a greater order, a balance that holds the universe together. Marduk leans forward, the fire casting shadows across his face. The world is a dance, he says, between the gods above and the spirits below. Demons like Lamashtu or the rabasu are not just evil, they are part of the plan. The gods send them to test us, to teach us, to remind us to honor them. His children listen, their breaths soft in the quiet room. He speaks of Pazuzu, the winged terror who guards against Lamashtu's wrath, and the Utaku souls who linger when rituals are forgotten. But he emphasizes hope. For every demon there is a prayer, an offering, a way to restore harmony. His words are not meant to scare, but to comfort, to show his children that even in a world of shadows, there is light. This worldview was the heartbeat of Mesopotamian life. The people of Ur, Nippur, and Babylon didn't see their universe as a battleground of good versus evil, but as a tapestry where every thread, gods, demons, humans, had a role. Demons were not random chaos. They were agents of the gods, sent to punish, test, or warn. A fever might be Lamashtu's touch, a sign of divine displeasure. A storm might be the work of a Galu, a reminder to offer sacrifices. But for every threat, there was a response, a ritual, an amulet, a story that brought balance back. This belief gave the Mesopotamians a way to navigate their unpredictable world, to find meaning in suffering and strength in faith. Let's linger with Marduk's family. The fire crackles, its warmth wrapping around them like a mother's embrace. Ishtar, the youngest, asks, "What if a demon comes tonight?" Marduk smiles, his hand resting on her shoulder. He points to the amulet above the door, a small clay disc etched with the face of Pazuzu. "He watches over us. he says, and the gods listen when we pray. He tells them of a time when their home felt heavy, the air thick with unease. He and his wife had performed a ritual, burning myrrh and chanting to Enlil, and the heaviness lifted. The story isn't just a tale, it's a lesson, a reminder that the family's faith is their shield. This belief in balance shaped every part of Mesopotamian life. In the markets of your merchants offered amulets alongside grain and cloth, each one blessed to ward off demons. In temples, priests like the Iappu crafted tablets with spells to restore harmony, their chants rising like smoke to the heavens. Even children learned the stories, their small hands tracing the symbols on clay figurines, their voices joining in prayers. The cosmic dance was not just a belief, it was a way of living, a rhythm that guided families through joy and sorrow. Let's step into another home, this one in Babylon, where a woman named Ninlil prepares for a festival honoring the moon god. In the air smells of fresh bread and roasted sesame, offerings for the temple. Ninlil's son, barely 5, helps her shape small clay figures, each one a symbol of protection. She tells him stories of the gods and demons, her voice soft but steady. When we honor the gods, she says, the demons stay away. The boy nods, his fingers clumsy but earnest, and places a figurine by the door. The festival comes, and the family joins the procession, their voices rising with the crowds. Their offerings a plea for balance in a world of uncertainty. This sense of balance extended beyond the home. In the fields, farmers like Enlil, whom we met earlier, buried tablets to appease spirits that might blight their crops. In the palaces, kings consulted Ad-Ipu before battles, seeking signs of divine favor. Even the rivers, the lifeblood of Mesopotamia, were part of this dance. Floods were seen as the work of gods or demons, and canals were dug with prayers to keep the waters kind. Every act, from sowing seeds to weaving cloth, was touched by the belief that the world was alive, its forces in constant motion. If you're finding peace in these stories of balance and faith, please subscribe if you liked the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient tales alive, weaving them into the fabric of our own lives. Let's pause for a moment in Ur, where Marduk's family prepares for sleep. The fire has died to embers, and the children are tucked under blankets, their breathing soft and even. Marduk checks the amulet above the door, its presence a quiet reassurance. He whispers a prayer to Sin, the moon god, asking for protection through the night. The house feels warm, safe, a small island in a sea of stars. Marduk's stories have done their work, teaching his children not just to fear the demons, but to trust in the rituals and gods that keep them at bay. This trust was what held Mesopotamian society together. It wasn't just about fighting demons, it was about understanding their place in the grand order. The gods set the rules, the demons tested them, and humans, through faith and action, maintained the balance. But not all threats came from within the city walls. Beyond the fields and rivers, the desert stretched vast and unforgiving, home to spirits like the Adimu who haunted travelers with their restless cries. As the night deepens over Mesopotamia, we'll follow a merchant on a perilous journey, his story a testament to the courage it took to face the demons of the wild. Demons of the desert, the Adimu and the travelers. The night stretches on, the stars above Mesopotamia burning bright as the soft glow of Marduk's fire fades into embers. His children asleep under the protective gaze of their amulet. The quiet hum of Ur's streets, with their scent of barley and river mud, gives way to the vast silence of the desert beyond the city walls. The Tigris murmurs in the distance, a lifeline in a land where life and death dance closely together. Marduk's stories of gods and demons have woven a thread of balance, a reminder that every threat has its counter, a prayer, a ritual, a story. But as we leave the safety of the city, we venture into the wild, where the desert sands whisper of another kind of spirit, the Adimu, restless souls who haunt the lonely paths, their cries carried on the wind. Let's follow a merchant named Zaidu, whose journey through the desert tests his courage against these spectral terrors. Zaidu's caravan moves slowly across the dunes, the sun blazing high overhead, its heat pressing down like a heavy hand. The air shimmers thick with the scent of dust and dried tamarisk. Zaidu, a seasoned merchant from Babylon, leads a small group of traders, their donkeys laden with wool, barley and clay pots bound for the markets of Nippa. His weathered face is lined with years of travel, his eyes sharp but wary. The desert is no stranger to him, but it's a place of danger, not just from bandits or heat, but from the Adimu spirits of those who died alone in the wilderness. Their souls unmoored, their anger a storm that lingers in the sands. The Adimu were feared by all who traveled Mesopotamia's trade routes. Unlike the Rabasu lurking in doorways or the Udiku tied to forgotten rites, the Adimu were born from tragedy, men and women who perished without burial, their bodies claimed by the desert's hunger. The Mesopotamians believed these spirits roamed the wild. Their voices a mournful wail, their touch a chill that could sap a traveler's strength. To cross the desert was to risk their wrath, and Zaidu, like all merchants, carries protections. A small clay amulet, etched with the face of Shamash, the sun god, hangs around his neck, and a bundle of prayers is tucked into his satchel as the caravan crests a dune. The wind picks up, carrying a faint eerie sound, a low moan that seems to rise from the earth itself. Zedu's companions tense, their hands gripping their staffs. "An Edimu," whispers one, a young man named Enlil, his voice tight with fear. Zedu scans the horizon, the sand stretching endless and unbroken. He's heard the stories. Travelers lost to sudden storms, their bodies never found, their souls becoming Edimu forever bound to the desert. His own father told him of a night when a caravan vanished, leaving only footprints swallowed by the sand. Zedu tightens his grip on the amulet, its edges worn smooth by years of touch, and urges the caravan forward. His voice steady but his heart pounding. Night falls and the desert grows cold, the stars sharp and unyielding. The caravan sets camp, a small circle of tents around a fire that struggles against the wind. The moan returns, louder now, a sound that seems to circle the camp. Enlil's face pales, and the others murmur prayers, their eyes darting to the darkness beyond the firelight. Zedu knows they can't ignore this. He's seen too many caravans falter, their men weakened by fear or sickness blamed on the Edum. He decides to act, drawing on the rituals he's learned from temple priests and village elders. From his satchel, he pulls a small clay tablet, its surface inscribed with cuneiform prayers to Shamash and Ereshkigal, the goddess of the underworld. Zaidu kneels by the fire, the sand cool beneath him, and begins the ritual. He places offerings, dates, bread, and a small jug of beer in a shallow pit, their scent mingling with the smoke. He chants, his voice low and steady, "Edimu, lost soul, of the desert, find your rest. By Shamash's light, by Ereshkigal's mercy, be guided to peace." He buries the tablet, covering it with sand, and sprinkles salt around the camp, a barrier against the unseen. The moan fades, the wind softens, and the air feels lighter, as if the spirit has moved on. The caravan sleeps, their dreams untroubled, and Zedu touches his amulet, whispering thanks to the gods. This wasn't just Zedu's story, it was a story of every traveler who braved the desert's dangers. The Edimu were a constant threat, their presence a reminder of the desert's unforgiving nature. Merchants carried amulets and tablets, their journeys punctuated by rituals to appease these restless souls. In the markets of Babylon and Yud, vendors sold charms specifically for travelers, their clay surfaces etched with prayers to ward off the Edimu. Priests taught rituals to be performed at camp, simple acts to ensure safe passage through the wild. Let's step into another scene, this one on a trade route near Lamashtu. A woman named Ninhursag, a trader's wife, travels with her husband's caravan, her young daughter at her side. The desert is quiet, the air heavy with heat, but as dusk falls, a strange sound receives a wail that seems to come from nowhere. Ninhursag's daughter clings to her, her small hands trembling. Ninhursag, practical but cautious, pulls a small figurine from her bag, a clay figure blessed by an Ipu. She places it in the sand, offering a handful of barley and a whispered prayer to Shamash. The wail fades, and the caravan moves on, Ninhursag holding her daughter close, the figurine left behind as a gift to the desert's spirits. These rituals were more than superstition, they were survival. The desert was a place of beauty and terror, its vastness a mirror for the Mesopotamian soul. The Edimu were not just spirits, they were stories of loss, of lives cut short, of the human need to be remembered. By offering prayers and gifts, travelers like Zedu and Ninhursag honored those stories, seeking to restore the balance disrupted by death. Their faith was a shield, their rituals a map through the wilderness. If you're finding solace in these tales of courage and survival, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient journeys alive, connecting us to the travelers who faced the desert's shadows. Let's linger a moment longer in the desert. Picture Zedu's caravan at dawn, the first light touching the dunes, turning them golden. The men pack their tents, their faces lighter, their steps surer. Zedu checks his amulet, its way to quiet comfort, and leads the caravan toward Nippa. The city ziggurat, a distant promise on the horizon. The Edimu is gone, or so he believes, and that belief carries him forward, just as it carried countless others through the sands. But the desert was not the only place where Mesopotamia's balance was tested. In the palaces of kings, where power and divinity met, demons were a different kind of threat, their presence a sign of cosmic displeasure. As the sun rises over the land, we'll step into the world of a king and his Ayapu, where rituals and omens shaped the fate of empires, and the fight against the unseen took on a grander scale. Palaces under protection, demons in the realm of power as dawn breaks over the Mesopotamian desert. The golden light touches the dunes where Zedu's caravan presses onward, their hearts steadied by the ritual that silenced the Edimu's wail. The distant silhouette of Nipper's ziggurat grows closer, a beacon of civilization amidst the wild. The soft hum of the Tigris lingers in the air, carrying us from the open sands to the heart of power, where cities like Nineveh and Babylon rise with towering walls and palaces adorned with the might of kings. Here the cosmic dance of gods and demons takes on a grander scale, where the unseen threatens not just families or travelers but entire empires. Let's step into the world of a king named Ashurbanipal, whose reign is shadowed by omens and the ever-present need to protect his palace from the demons that lurk beyond the mortal realm in the grand palace of Nineveh. The air is rich with the scent of polished cedar and burning incense. The walls are lined with intricate reliefs, lions, winged genies, and fierce guardian spirits carved in stone, their eyes seeming to watch every step. Ashurbanipal, a king known for his wisdom and conquests, sits on a throne of ebony and gold, his robes heavy with embroidered stars. Yet, beneath his regal calm, a quiet unease stirs. A recent eclipse darkened the sky, an ill omen whispered about in the court. Servants report strange noises in the night, low moans echoing through the corridors, a chill that lingers in the royal chambers. The priests murmur of demons, perhaps sent by angered gods or stirred by the unrest of a recent battle. For a king, such signs are not just personal threats, they endanger the entire kingdom. In Mesopotamia, kings were more than rulers. They were intermediaries between the gods and their people, tasked with maintaining cosmic order. A demon in the palace wasn't just a personal danger, it was a sign that the gods' favor was slipping, that the balance of the world was at risk. Ashurbanipal, a scholar as much as a warrior, knows this well. He summons his chief Ipu, a priest named Enkidu whose reputation for taming the unseen is unmatched. Enkidu arrives in the throne room, his robes plain but his presence commanding, carrying a satchel of ritual tools, clay tablets, a bronze censer, and a small figurine of a protective spirit. Enkidu listens as Ashurbanipal describes the omens, the eclipse, the moans, and a troubling dream where a shadow with burning eyes stood at the foot of his bed. The court whispers of a Galu, a demon said to drag souls to the underworld, or perhaps a Rabasu drawn to the palace's thresholds by some divine displeasure. Enkidu's face remains calm, his eyes scanning the reliefs on the walls, each one a testament to the palace's protections. The gods are restless, he says, but we can restore their favor. He proposes a ritual to cleanse the palace, to banish any demon and reaffirm Ashurbanipal's divine mandate. The ritual begins at midnight, under a sky thick with stars. Enkidu leads a small group of priests through the palace, their steps echoing on the polished stone floors. They carry braziers burning myrrh and tamarisk, the smoke curling upward like a prayer. Enkidu chants, his voice steady and resonant, calling on Enlil and Shamash to guard the king. At each doorway, he sprinkles holy water, blessed in the temple of Sign, and places a small clay tablet inscribed with cuneiform spells. In the throne room, he buries a figurine of a lion-headed spirit, binding any demon that dares linger. Ashurbanipal watches, his hands clasped, his faith in Enkidu's skill a shield against his fears. As dawn breaks, the palace feels lighter, the air clearer, the moans have ceased, and Ashurbanipal's sleep is undisturbed. He rewards Enkidu with a ring of silver, a gesture of gratitude for restoring the balance. The reliefs on the walls, lions, genies, and winged bulls, seem to stand taller, their protective power renewed. But Enkidu warns the king to remain vigilant. The god's favor is hard-won, and the demons are never far. Ashurbanipal nods, his gaze lingering on a relief of a guardian spirit, its eyes fierce and watchful. This wasn't just Ashurbanipal's story, it was the story of every Mesopotamian king, from Hammurabi to Stagan. Palaces were not just homes, they were sacred spaces, extensions of the divine order. Demons in the palace were a threat to the entire land, a sign that the king's connection to the gods was faltering. To counter this, kings surrounded themselves with protections, stone reliefs carved with guardian spirits, amulets hung in every chamber, and rituals performed before every major decision, battles, treaties, or harvests. The Aipu were as vital to the palace as soldiers or scribes, their knowledge a bulwark against the unseen. Let's step into another moment, this one in Babylon's palace, where a queen named Semiramis faces her own omens. A flock of birds flew strangely at dusk, and a servant reported a shadow moving in the royal gardens. Semiramis, strong-willed but cautious, calls her Aipu, a woman named Ninhursag. Ninhursag performs a ritual similar to Enkidu's, burning incense and chanting under the stars. She crafts a small statue of Pazuzu, the fierce protector, and places it in the queen's chamber. The omens fade, and Semiramis sleeps soundly, her faith in the gods restored. She gifts Ninhursag a necklace of lapis lazuli, a token of trust in her power. These rituals were not just for kings and queens, they were a reflection of Mesopotamia's broader belief in balance. The palace, like the humblest home, was part of the cosmic dance, where every act from carving a relief to chanting a prayer helped maintain order. The reliefs themselves were more than art, they were magic, their images of lions and genies, a shield against demons. In Nineveh, Ashurbanipal's library held tablets detailing these rituals, preserving the knowledge that kept the kingdom safe. If you're finding solace in these tales of power and protection, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient stories alive, connecting us to the rulers who faced the unseen with courage. Let's linger a moment longer in Nineveh. Picture the palace at dawn, the first light touching the reliefs, turning their stone faces golden. Servants move quietly, sweeping the courtyards, while priests chant in the temple nearby. Ashurbanipal walks the halls, his steps lighter, his faith in the gods renewed. The demons, for now, are held at bay, but the work of protection never ends. The Aipu will return, their rituals a constant rhythm in the life of the palace. This need for protection extended beyond the palace walls, into the very art and objects that filled Mesopotamian life. From amulets to statues, every creation was a weapon against the unseen, a testament to the ingenuity and faith of a people who refused to be cowed by fear. As the sun climbs higher, we'll follow a craftsman whose work brings this protection to life, carving the very spirits that guard Mesopotamia's homes and temples. Reliefs and amulets, art against fear. The sun climbs higher over Nineveh, its golden rays spilling across the palace where Ashurbanipal walks among stone reliefs, their carved guardians standing sentinel against the unseen. The soft chant of priests echoes from the temple, blending with the distant murmur of the Tigris, as the city hums with the rhythm of a people bound to the cosmic dance of gods and demons. The Aipu Enkidu's ritual has restored peace to the palace, but the work of protection is never done. Beyond the grand halls of kings, this work extends to every corner of Mesopotamia where art and faith intertwine to shield homes, temples, and hearts from the terrors of the night. Let's follow a craftsman named Shamash, whose skilled hands carve the very symbols that hold back the darkness. His work a testament to the power of creation in a world of fear. In a workshop near the heart of the air is thick with the scent of dust and damp clay. Shamash, a master craftsman, bends over a slab of limestone, his chisel moving with precision as he carves the fierce face of a lion-headed spirit. His hands are calloused, his eyes sharp with focus, but his heart carries a quiet pride. The relief he's crafting is destined for the local temple, a guardian to watch over the priests and their rituals. Around him the workshop hums with activity. Apprentices shape clay amulets, their surfaces etched with cuneiform prayers, while others polish bronze discs meant to ward off demons like Lamashtu or the Rabasu. Shamash's work is more than art, it's a shield, a prayer in stone and clay. Shamash's latest commission comes from the temple of Inanna, where the priests have requested a relief to protect against restless spirits. The temple's high priestess, a woman named Ninhursag, visited Shamash's workshop days ago, her presence commanding as she described the need for a new guardian. The Utuku have been stirring, she said, her voice low. We need a spirit to watch over us. Shamash nodded, his mind already sketching the form. A winged bull, its eyes fierce, its hooves planted firmly, a symbol of strength against the unseen. He spent days chiseling the stone, each stroke a meditation, each curve a plea for protection. As he works, Shamash thinks of his own home, a modest house near the river where his wife and daughter sleep under the protection of a small Pazuzu amulet. Last year his daughter fell ill, her fever burning for days. Shamash had crafted a clay figurine himself, etching it with prayers to Gula, and buried it outside their door during a ritual led by an Aipu. The fever broke, and Shamash believes his work, his art, played a role. Now, as he carves the winged bull, he pours that same faith into the stone, knowing it will stand guard over the temple, its presence a barrier against the demons that haunt Mesopotamia's nights. The art of protection was everywhere in this ancient land. In every city or Babylon, nipper walls were adorned with reliefs of lions, genies, and mythical creatures, their forms both beautiful and terrifying. These were not mere decorations. They were magic, their images imbued with the power to repel evil. Homes, too, were guarded by amulets, small discs or figurines hung above doors, placed under cradles, or worn around necks. In the markets, vendors sold these charms alongside grain and cloth, their stalls crowded with clay tablets, bronze medallions, and tiny statues of Pazuzu or guardian spirits. Each piece was blessed, often by an Aipu, its power sealed with a prayer or a sprinkle of holy water. Let's step into a market in Babylon, where the air buzzes with the chatter of traders and the scent of roasted sesame. A young mother named Inanna browses a vendor's stall, her newborn son nestled against her chest. She's searching for an amulet to protect him from Lamashtu, her fingers tracing the edges of a clay disc etched with Pazuzu's snarling face. The vendor, an old man with a weathered smile, assures her it was crafted by a master like Shamash and blessed in the temple of Sin. Inanna pays with a handful of dates, tucking the amulet into her basket, her heart lighter as she hurries home. Before dusk that night, she hangs it above the cradle, whispering a prayer to Gula, the goddess of healing, and sleeps with one hand resting on her son's blanket. This belief in the power of art was woven into Mesopotamian life. Craftsmen like Shamash were not just artisans, they were guardians, their work a bridge between the human and the divine. Temples housed workshops where apprentices learned to carve reliefs and shape amulets, their hands guided by tradition and faith. In the palace of Ashurbanipal, reliefs lined the halls, each one a story of protection: winged genies warding off Galu, lions standing against Rabasu. Even the humblest homes had their charms, small but potent, a testament to the people's determination to face the unseen with courage. Let's return to Shamash's workshop, where the winged bull is nearly complete. The stone gleams in the sunlight filtering through the reed roof, its eyes seeming to follow Shamash as he works. He pauses to wipe sweat from his brow, his thoughts drifting to a story his father told him, a tale of a craftsman whose relief they saved a village from a plague blamed on demons. Shamash hopes his own work will carry such power that the bull will stand as a sentinel for generations. As he finishes the final details, Ninhursag arrives to inspect the relief. She nods, her eyes tracing the bull's form, and places a hand on Shamash's shoulder. "This will protect us," she says, her voice warm with gratitude. The relief is carried to the temple in a procession. The streets of Ur are alive with onlookers. The air smells of dust and incense as priests chant, their voices rising to the heavens. The bull is set into the temple wall, its presence a quiet promise of safety. Shamash watches, his chest swelling with pride, knowing his hands have helped maintain the cosmic balance. That night, he returns home, his daughter running to greet him. He lifts her laughing, and checks the Pazuzu amulet above their door. Its fierce face, a mirror of his own resolve. If you're finding comfort in these stories of art and faith, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient crafts alive, connecting us to the hands that shaped Mesopotamia's protections. Let's linger a moment longer in your picture Shamash sitting with his family, sharing a meal of flatbread and lentil stew. The lamp's glow dances across the walls, where a small clay disc hangs. It symbols a quiet guardian. Shamash tells his daughter about the winged bull, his voice soft as he describes its strength. She listens, her eyes wide, and falls asleep dreaming of the temple, safe under its protection. But the balance these artisans helped maintain was tested by more than demons. The natural world, storms, floods, and droughts could disrupt the cosmic order, their fury blamed on gods and spirits. As the sun sets over Mesopotamia, we'll follow a village facing such a threat. Their rituals and offerings a desperate plea to restore harmony in a land where even the elements seemed alive, with intent. Storms and omens, demons in the natural world as the sun dips below the horizon in Ur, casting a warm glow over Shamash's workshop. The winged bull relief now stands proudly in the temple of Inanna, its stone eyes guarding against the unseen. The soft scent of dust and incense lingers in the air, blending with the distant murmur of the Tigris, as the city settles into the quiet of evening. Shamash's amulet, hanging above his door, mirrors the countless charms that protect Mesopotamia's homes, a testament to the faith that binds this land together. But beyond the city walls, the world grows wilder, its forces untamed and unpredictable. The rivers that give life can turn deadly. The skies that bring rain can unleash storms. And in the Mesopotamian mind, these were not mere nature, they were the work of gods and demons, testing the balance of the cosmic dance. Let's follow a village on the edge of the Euphrates, where a flood stirs fears of divine wrath and the demons that ride the storm. In a small village near the Euphrates, the air is heavy with the scent of wet earth and reeds. The river, usually a gentle provider, has swollen over its banks, its waters churning brown and fierce, flooding fields and threatening homes of mud brick and straw. The villagers, led by a farmer named Enlil, gather at the river's edge, their faces etched with worry. The flood came without warning, washing away barley crops and leaving the ground a sodden ruin. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Some speak of Enki, the god of water, angered by a forgotten offering. Others murmur of demons, perhaps Galu or Adimu, stirring the river's wrath. Enlil, his hands calloused from years of tending the land, feels the weight of their fear. His own fields are underwater, his family's stores at risk, and the village looks to him for guidance. In Mesopotamia, natural disasters were never just physical events, they were omens, signs of divine displeasure, or demonic interference. A flood could be the work of a god like Enki, testing the people's devotion, or a demon riding the waters to sow chaos. The Galu spirits said to drag souls to the underworld were often blamed for such calamities, their presence felt in the roar of the river or the howl of a storm. Enlil knows the stories. His grandfather once spoke of a flood that swept away a neighboring village, its survivors claiming a Galu had darkened the skies. Determined to restore balance, Enlil seeks out the village's Aipu, a woman named Ninhursag, whose wisdom has guided them through past troubles. Ninhursag's home is a small hut near the temple, its walls lined with clay tablets and bundles of dried herbs. The air smells of myrrh and river water, and a single oil lamp casts a warm glow. Enlil explains the flood, his voice steady but urgent, the ruined fields, the frightened villagers, the sense that something unnatural stirs the waters. Nin listens, her eyes thoughtful, and nods. "The gods are speaking," she says, "and perhaps a demon rides their will. We must offer a ritual to appease them." She hands Enlil a clay figurine shaped like a fish to honor Enki and a tablet, inscribed with prayers to calm the river's wrath. The ritual, she explains, must be performed at the riverbank at dawn, with the entire village united in offering. As the first light touches the horizon, the villagers gather by the Euphrates, their feet sinking into the muddy bank. The air is cool, the river's roar softened but still menacing. Ninhursag leads the ritual, her voice rising above the water's rush. She lights a brazier, burning cedar and tamarisk, the smoke curling upward like a plea to the heavens. The villagers place offerings, bread, dates, and a small jar of beer into the river, watching them drift away. Enlil, standing at the front, holds the fish figurine, its clay cool in his hands. He chants with Ninhursag, his voice joining the others. Enki, Lord of the Waters, hear us. Galu, Spirit of Chaos, be gone. Restore the balance of our land. They bury the tablet in the riverbank, sealing the prayer with earth, and scatter salt to purify the ground. By midday, the river begins to recede, its waters calming as if listening to the villagers' plea. The fields, though damaged, are no longer submerged, and hope flickers in Enlil's heart. He thanks Ninhursag, leaving a basket of barley at her door, and the villagers return to their homes, their faith renewed. Whether it was the ritual or the river's natural cycle, they believe the gods and demons had been appeased, and that belief is enough to carry them forward. This wasn't just Enlil's story, it was the story of every Mesopotamian village. Facing the whims of nature, storms, floods, and droughts were seen as divine messages, often carried by demons like the Galu or Edim. In Babylon, a storm that tore through the city was blamed on Arabasu, its winds carrying the spirit's malice. In Nippur, a drought was attributed to an angered god, stirred by a forgotten rite. Each calamity called for rituals, offerings, and unity, as communities came together to restore the cosmic balance. Temples kept records of these events, their tablets detailing spells to calm the elements. And Anaipu like Ninhursag were revered for their ability to read the signs and act. Let's step into another village, this one near Lagash, where a storm has left the fields in chaos. A woman named Inanna, a potter, leads her neighbors in a ritual to appease the storm's demons. They gather at the temple, offering a lamb and chanting under a sky still heavy with clouds. Via Ipu, a man named Enkidu, burns incense and berries. A tablet, inscribed with prayers to Adod, the storm god. The winds calm, and Inanna feels a weight lift, her hand steady as she shapes clay the next day. She crafts a small amulet for her home, etching it with symbols of protection. A quiet act of faith in the face of nature's power. These rituals were a lifeline in a land where the elements could give life or take it away. The rivers that fed, the fields could flood without warning. The skies that brought rain could unleash tempests. Demons were the explanation for these unpredictability, and rituals were the response. Farmers buried tablets in their fields, priests chanted in temples, and families offered what little they had: bread, wine, a prayer to keep the balance intact. It was a way to face the unknown, to find strength in a world that could turn fierce in an instant. If you're finding solace in these tales of resilience and faith, please subscribe if you like the video. Your support helps us keep these ancient struggles alive, connecting us to the people who faced the storms with courage. Let's linger a moment longer by the Euphrates. Picture Enlil standing with his family, watching the river settle, its waters gleaming under the midday sun. The village is quiet, the air warm with the scent of wet earth and hope. Enlil's daughter runs to him, her small hands clutching a reed doll, and he lifts her, smiling. The ritual has worked, or so they believe, and the fields will recover. The Atipu Ninhursag returns to her hut, her work a quiet thread in the village's survival. But the fight against the unseen wasn't just about surviving disasters, it was about living with them. Day after day, the Mesopotamians built their lives around this balance, their communities strengthened by shared rituals and stories. As the sun climbs higher, we'll follow a village preparing for a festival. Their offerings and celebrations are testament to their resilience, a way to honor the gods and keep the demons at bay in a world where every day was a dance with the divine. Living with fear, the resilience of Mesopotamia. The sun hangs high over the Euphrates, its light glinting off the now calm waters where Enlil's village stands, the fields slowly recovering from the flood's wrath. The scent of wet earth and blooming tamarisk fills the air, mingling with the quiet hum of daily life, children laughing, looms clacking, and the distant chant of priests from the temple. Ninhursag's ritual has restored a fragile peace, the Galu demon banished. Or so the villagers believe, their faith a sturdy thread in the tapestry of their lives. But in Mesopotamia, peace is never permanent. The unseen is always near, woven into the rhythm of existence. As we move through the village, past homes guarded by amulets and fields blessed by prayers, we're drawn to a festival where the community gathers. Their offerings and celebrations a powerful act of resilience, a way to honor the gods and keep the demons at bay. In this village, preparations are underway for the Akitu festival, a celebration of renewal honoring Marduk, the god of Babylon, and the eternal cycle of life. The air buzzes with anticipation, scented with roasting barley and fresh-baked bread. Families like Enlil's work together, shaping clay figurines, weaving garlands of reeds, and preparing offerings, dates, wine, and small loaves to place at the temple altar. Enlil's daughter Nanch, barely 6, helps her mother knead dough, her small hands dusted with flour. The festival is more than a celebration. It's a communal act of faith, a way to strengthen the bonds between the people, the gods, and the land, ensuring protection against the demons that lurk in the shadows. The Mesopotamians lived with fear as a constant companion, but they did not cower. Demons like Lamashtu, Rabasu, or Edimu were part of their world, as real as the rivers or the stars. A child's fever, a storm's fury, a creak in the night, each could be a sign of the unseen, a call to action. Yet their response was not despair but resilience, a determination to face the unknown through rituals, community, and stories. The Akitu festival was one such response, a time to renew the cosmic balance, to honor the gods who held the demons at bay, and to reaffirm the strength of the village as one. As dusk falls, the villagers gather in the temple courtyard, their faces lit by torches and the glow of a rising moon. The air is warm, filled with the scent of incense and the murmur of prayers. Ninhursag Ipu stands at the altar, her robes catching the torchlight as she leads the chants. She holds a clay figurine of Marduk, its surface etched with symbols of power, and places it among the offerings baskets of fruit, jugs of beer, and loaves of bread shaped like stars. The villagers join her, their voices rising in unison. Marduk, Lord of Order, protect us, keep the demons from our homes, our fields, our hearts. Enlil stands with Nanj, her small hand in his, and feels the weight of fear lift, replaced by the warmth of community. The festival unfolds, with music and dance, the sound of lyres and drums filling the night. Children run through the crowd, their laughter a defiance of the darkness. Enlil's wife, Inanna, offers a loaf at the altar, whispering a prayer for their family's safety. The ritual is not just for the gods, it's for the people, a reminder that they are not alone in their fears. Ninhursag burns myrrh in a brazier, the smoke curling upward, and buries a tablet inscribed with prayers to ward off Galu and Rabasu. The villagers watch their faith a shared shield, believing that this act will keep their homes safe through the coming year. This wasn't just one village's story, it was the story of old Mesopotamia. Festivals like the Akitu were held across cities like Ur, Babylon, and Nippur, each one a celebration of survival. In Lagash, a community gathered to honor the moon god, Sin, their offerings of wine and barley a plea for protection against Edom. In Uruk, families danced under the stars, their chants echoing through the streets, their amulets gleaming in the torchlight. These moments of unity were a powerful act of defiance, a way to face the unseen with courage and hope, to weave the community into the cosmic dance. Let's step into another scene, this one in a village near Babylon. A young man named Zaidu, a merchant we met in the desert, has returned home for a festival honoring Enlil, the god of wind. His wife Lalichu prepares a small figurine of clay, its surface etched with prayers. Their son, barely 4, watches with wide eyes as they place it at the temple altar, joining neighbors in a chant to keep demons at bay. The air smells of roasted sesame and incense, and Zaidu feels a warmth in his chest, a reminder that his travels, though perilous, are part of a larger whole. The festival ends with a shared meal, the village united, their laughter a quiet victory over fear. These festivals were more than celebrations, they were rituals of resilience, a way to live with the constant presence of the unseen. Every home had its amulets, every field its buried tablets, every heart its prayers. The Mesopotamians understood that fear was part of life, but so was the strength to face it. They built canals to tame the rivers, temples to honor the gods, and communities to share the burden of the unknown. Their stories, like those told by Marduk to his children, were not just tales, they were lessons in survival, passed down through generations. If you're finding comfort in these stories of unity and courage, please subscribe if you like the video. Support helps us keep these ancient voices alive, connecting us to the people who face their fears together. Let's linger a moment longer in the village. Picture Enlil and his family returning home, the torchlight fading behind them. Nanj clutches her reed doll, her steps light as she hums a festival song. The amulet above their door gleams in the moonlight, a silent guardian. Enlil checks it, his fingers brushing the clay, and whispers a prayer to Marduk, his heart full of gratitude for the community that holds them together. The night feels safe, the stars a promise of renewal. This resilience was the heart of Mesopotamian life, a testament to a people who refused to be defined by fear. But their story doesn't end here, it lives on, in the echoes of their rituals, their art, their faith. As the moon rises higher, we'll step back to reflect on these connections, on how the demons of Mesopotamia mirror our own fears, and how their courage speaks to us across the centuries. A final thread in this ancient tapestry. Echoes of the past, demons in our lives. The moon climbs higher over the Mesopotamian village, its silver light bathing the mud brick homes where Enlil and his family rest, their hearts warmed by the Akitu festival's songs and offerings. The scent of incense and roasted barley lingers in the air, a faint echo of the community's unity, their shared rituals a shield against the unseen. The soft murmur of the Euphrates carries us forward, through the stories of Lamashtu's terror, Pazuzu, protection, and the quiet resilience of a people who face their fears with faith and courage. As we stand under the same stars that watched over your Babylon and Nippur, we pause to reflect, to weave the final thread of this ancient tapestry, connecting the demons of Mesopotamia to the fears that whisper in our own lives today. In the village, the festival's glow has faded, but its spirit lingers. Enlil walks through his home, checking the amulet above the door, its clay surface etched with symbols that have guarded his family through floods and fevers. His daughter Nanj sleeps soundly, her reed doll clutched close, her dreams filled with the music of the night, the rituals, the stories, the offerings. They've done their work, binding the community to the gods, keeping demons like Rabasu and Galu at bay. But as Enlil sits by a flickering oil lamp, the air warm with the scent of earth and straw, he wonders about the unseen forces that still linger, not just in the shadows of Mesopotamia, but in the heart of every human soul. The Mesopotamians lived in a world alive with spirits, where every sickness, storm, or strange sound could be a demon's touch. Lamashtu stalked mothers like Inanna, her lion-headed form a terror in the night. Pazuzu, with his fierce wings, stood guard over families like Ninlol's, a paradox of fear and protection. The Udiku, restless souls like Shamashes, haunted those like Enki who failed to honor the dead. The Rabasu lurked in doorways, testing the courage of weavers like Lilitu, while Edimu wailed in the desert, challenging travelers like Zaidu. And through it all, Ripu like Ninersag and Enkidu wove rituals to restore balance, their chants, a bridge between the human and the divine. But these demons were more than monsters, they were mirrors of human fears. Lamashtu embodied the fragility of life, the terror of losing a child. The Udiku reflected the guilt and grief of those left behind, the weight of unfinished duties. The Rabasu and Edimu spoke to the unpredictability of the world, the small, that accidents and vast wilderness that could append a life. The Galu, blamed for floods and storms, were the chaos of nature, a force beyond control. And in facing these demons, the Mesopotamians showed us something timeless, the need to name our fears, to confront them with action, to find hope in the face of the unknown. Let's linger with Enlil a moment longer. As the lamp's flame dances, he thinks of his own fears, not just demons, but the everyday worries that keep him awake. Will the fields yield enough to feed his family? Will Nanj grow strong in a world so uncertain? These are not so different from the fears of a mother like Inanna, clutching her newborn, or a merchant like Zaidu, braving the desert's dangers. Enlil's rituals, his prayers, his offerings are his way of fighting back, of claiming control in a world that offers none. And in that fight, he finds a quiet strength, a resilience that echoes through the centuries. This resilience was the heart of Mesopotamia's story. They built cities from mud brick, canals from the rivers, laws from clay tablets. They wrote epics, like Gilgamesh, carved reliefs of winged bulls, and wove stories that bound their communities together. But they also lived with fear, not as a weakness, but as a truth to be faced. Their amulets, rituals, and festivals were not just defenses, they were acts of creation, ways to shape meaning from chaos. A craftsman like Shamash carved protection into stone. A father like Marduk taught his children to trust in the gods. Every act, from burying a tablet to chanting under the stars, was a declaration we will not be broken. Now let's step out of the village, out of Mesopotamia, and stand under our own modern stars. The demons of Lamashtu and Pazuzu may seem distant, their forms strange to our eyes. But don't we have our own demons? The worries that creep into our minds at night, the fear of loss, of failure, of the unknown. The sudden illness that steals our breath, the storm that appends our plans, the shadow that feels too real in the dark. We may not call them Rabasu or Edimu, but we know their weight, their whisper. And like the Mesopotamians, we fight them not with clay figurines or incense, but with our own rituals, a kind word, a moment of courage, a story that reminds us we're not alone. Think of a mother today, sitting by her child's bedside, her heart racing as she waits for a fever to break. She may not pray to Gula, but her hope, her vigilance, is a ritual as old as Inanna's, or a traveler, driving through a storm, gripping the wheel, whispering to themselves that they'll make it home. Their courage is Zaidu's, their faith, a spark from the same fire. Even our community's friends gathering to share a meal, neighbors helping after a disaster code the Akitu festival, the unity that held Mesopotamia together. The names have changed, but the human heart has not. Let's imagine one final scene in Mesopotamia. It's a quiet night in Ur, the city asleep under a sky of endless stars. A young woman named Lilichu, the weaver we met earlier, stands outside, her home, her son, asleep inside. The amulet above her door gleams faintly, its symbols a silent promise. Liluchu looks up, the stars reminding her of the stories her father told of gods, demons, and the balance that holds the world. She feels a connection, not just to her village, but to something larger, a thread that stretches across time. Her fears are still there, but so is her strength, her faith that the morning will come. This is the legacy of Mesopotamia, not just their cities or their writing, but their courage, their refusal to let fear define them. They faced their demons with rituals and stories, with art and community, and in doing so, they showed us how to face our own. So, as you listen to this tale, under your own stars, think of Enlil, Inanna, Zaidu, and Lilitu. Their world was vast and shadowed, but they filled it with light. And perhaps, in our own way, we can do the same. If you found comfort in this journey through Mesopotamia's fears and hopes, please subscribe if you liked the video. Your support keeps these stories alive. connecting us to a past that still speaks to our hearts. Let's close our eyes for a moment. The Euphrates murmur fading into the night. Picture the village, its homes quiet, its amulets watchful. The stars above are the same ones that shone over your 5,000 years ago, their light a bridge across time. The demons of Mesopotamia may rest now, their stories carried on the wind, but their courage lives in us, a whisper that says, face your fears, tell your stories, and let the morning come. Good night, friends, and may your dreams be as peaceful as the river's flow.